That thing sucks. Wait, what's the title of the show?
Michael Thomas, pay him, pay him, pay him, pay him, pay him, pay him.
Okay.
All right, so we will go live in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Saints Happy Hour podcast, featuring Dave Cariello, Andrew Juge, Ralph Malbrough, and when he decides to show up, Kevin Held. We are the perfect blend of Saints sincerity and stupidity.
How many RPMs would it take for the Julio copter to actually fly away, and how many fumbles would happen as a result?
Well, that's a trick question because you can only fumble once.
If you're not having fun when your team is 11-2 and wins back-to-back division titles for the first time in 50 years, then you need to stop watching.
And now, here's your host, Ralph Malbrough.
All right, everybody, welcome to a special Sunday night edition of Saints Happy Hour podcast. We have to go early because I have a big, huge, giant meeting with all the bigwigs at WWL tomorrow night. They're taking me to dinner for Freezy, and I'm going to get drunk and
Wait, is that true? Really?
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
What are you guys going to be discussing?
We're going to discuss...
Are we allowed to know?
Plans. The big plans for the football season, Dave.
Yeah? Are we going to see more of Ralph on television?
Could be.
Wow.
Don't want to tease it. But,
wow. Wait, are you meeting here in New Orleans?
No, in Houston.
Oh, okay. All right.
So, as always, the show we are brought to you by
luck.
SeatGeek. Let them take the confusion out of your ticket buying experience. Instead of shopping dozens of sites to find the best deal, let SeatGeek do the work for you. Their app scans the web for the best deals to your favorite game, concert, or show and rates them on a scale of 0 to 10 and let you know if you are getting the best for your buck. Green dot means it's a good deal. Yellow dot means it's a okay deal. Red dot means don't do it. Use the code ACAA at checkout. Receive $20 off your first purchase. That's 2 free beers at the stadium on them. What are you waiting for? Promo code ACAA. $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek, life's an event. They have the tickets. So yeah, Dave, I'm like not that important, but I am kind of important. They just happen to be in Houston.
I
So
mean,
they wanted
dinner. What kind of? Okay, so I was hoping it was going to be in New Orleans because I was going to, I was going to judge the whole thing by what restaurant they were taking you to. But since I don't know anything about the Houston restaurant scene, but maybe other people do. So what restaurant are they taking you to?
The Beer House, the number
That's perfect.
the number one fucking German restaurant in America. They have the trophy in the restaurant to fucking prove it.
Okay, but this is a more casual and informal meeting.
Yeah.
They're not trying to wine you and dine you.
No, I'm not Kawhi Leonard. And they aren't the fucking Pelicans, man. You know, I'm not Drew Brees in 2006, man. Or Jarris Bird. They're not whining and dining me, man. I've been there for like ever, man. They're probably like, I'm lucky they're not making me go Dutch. Dave, come on now.
Ralph will take the popcorn shrimp and a small side salad.
I was waiting for him to say Olive Garden. I was going to lose my shit.
I will be having the schnitzel and the 4 sausage plate, and I will have your giant stein of beer.
I would actually be excited if they were taking him to Olive Garden because it would mean that they were listening to the show and staying.
Oh, right. The jokes.
They don't listen to this podcast. If they listen to this podcast, they would never let me continue to write the column for them.
Wait, do they really? No, they know you have a podcast because
they do.
Every article ends with like.
Yeah, they know. They know. They let me promote it on the morning show between insults from Eric Paulsen.
Eric Paulsen has never listened to this show. I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna go out on a limb and I'm gonna say that.
Do they listen to the podcast?
Some people at the station do it. Kevin, the guy who not Kevin Held, the other Kevin who edits my column, he does. And Tom will listen occasionally, and he'll be like, "Man, you curse a lot."
You do curse a lot. You curse more than me, and I'm an Italian New Yorker. So that says something.
So Saints news. There was actually two pieces of news this week. The first piece of news, the Saints. It broke from Diana Rossini, who is AKA
of course,
the best Saints reporter there is.
Right.
That Michael Thomas is near an extension. Jeff Duncan tried to shit all over it, but who are you going to believe? The person that's broken the biggest every piece of Saints huge news the last 5 years, including the Brandon Cooks trade and almost every free agent signing they've ever had that we've cared about. Are you going to believe that person, or are you going to believe Duncan? Okay, I'm going to believe.
Did you guys see Michael Thomas tweeted like an LOL response to Jeff Duncan?
Yeah. I did see that.
So, I mean, I totally agree with your statement, basically saying who would you trust, but when Michael Thomas responds to your quote-unquote breaking news with LOL, I mean, that's a bad look if you're a reporter.
I mean, does that make Michael – I think that alone, Andrew, probably bumped Michael Thomas 5 spots higher on your favorite Saints list.
Oh, well, without a doubt. In fact, he may be my favorite ever now.
I gotta barbecue your ass in molasses.
That's what Michael Thomas did.
Not only is he scoring touchdowns and making a difference in playoff games and generally doing record things on the field, off the field, he's insulting Jeff Duncan. What more could I ask for?
People are
put him in the Ring of Honor now.
Saints Recline said the Ralph Eric Paulsen banter is hilarious and awkward. It is. It's like when that friend of your dad that hates you. Like that's who I feel like Eric Paulsen is. Like he just every morning he just insults me. And the best part is
I feel like when he's interviewing, he's just like. He's just got this attitude like he'd rather be doing anything else but interviewing you. Like he's just like, I can't believe I have to do this with this.
Yes, it feels like
I don't even know what he doesn't even know what Skype is. And the producers at WWTV are just like, Eric, we just need you to do this, okay? We just need you to talk to the screen. We just need you to do this. Don't worry, I feel like he probably calls you all different kinds of names too. Like Ray, hey Ray, what do you think the Saints are gonna do next week? Jimmy, what do you think they're going to do, Ralphie boy?
I think Eric Paulsen, deep in his soul, he feels like him having to interview me makes his credibility take a hit. Like he's like, I'm an icon in New Orleans. I am an icon of New Orleans media, and now I'm interviewing this dude who has a fucking cat on his lap.
I could probably get him on the show. I could probably text Shiva and get him on our show. We could interview him.
Comedy. Sorry.
We could interview.
Yeah. By the way, Dave, thanks for reminding me with the Ring of Honor receiver comment. That reminds me I need to bring something up later.
Okay, good.
But here's the thing about Michael Thomas that was driving me nuts, and I refrained from fighting people on Saints Twitter. There was a big chunk of people that were like, well, he's not really worth $22 million, and the Saints have always never had a number one elite receiver, and they traded Jimmy Graham, and they won a Super Bowl with Marcus Colston and Devery Henderson. They don't really need a number one guy, and I just wanted to tweet this at people nonstop.
Pay that man his money.
Dude, Dave, I'll start with you. We don't have peak Drew Brees can turn fucking hobos into 5,000 yards anymore. We don't have that anymore. Just how about we pay the record-breaking Saints receiver? How about we just do that?
Yeah, let's do that. No, I mean, what? Maybe this is Drew's last year, so I mean, maybe we're not going to have to spend so much and allocate so much percentage of the cap on our quarterback this year. I mean, yeah, maybe we'll have to pay somebody, but we're not going to have to, even if we have to pay Bridgewater to stay, or even if we want to sign some free agent out there, we're probably still not going to be paying them as much as Drew Brees has to be paid and needs to be paid per year. So there ought to be some free money to go around. I mean, obviously they just paid Jordan, Cam Jordan, and what's his face? Who else just signed?
Morstead.
No.
Oh, the kick Lutz.
No, I thought there was somebody else that just signed a contract. I thought. Anyway, never mind.
I just think so. If Brees was 29 and he was still gangbusters and could basically turn any wide receiver that's the equivalent of water to wine, right? Like if he could do that with the Kenny Stills and the Lance Moores of the world, or Willie Sneads, if he could still do that, then, and I'm not trying to slight Brees here, but I just maybe it would be different, if like Michael Thomas 10 years ago when Brees was 29 or whatever. But now I just view Michael Thomas as a bridge because it's kind of a two-pronged thing for me. It's like you need him around for the end of Brees no matter what, because the Saints in this offense cannot operate without him. So you need him around for that. And the next quarterback, whether it's Bridgewater or someone else, they have huge shoes to fill. And it's going to be a mission impossible for that person to come in and deliver. I mean, how could you ever succeed Drew Brees in New Orleans? And so that quarterback, whoever he is, Bridgewater or otherwise, is screwed pretty much, right? But like, imagine a scenario where it's that guy as the heir apparent to Drew Brees without Michael Thomas. Like, you can't do that to that guy.
Here's my question, Dave, and you can think about it, is Michael Thomas, he's caught the most passes ever for 3 years, first 3 years of a wide receiver. If you're a Saints fan and you don't want to pay Michael Thomas, and you do I don't want to pay him, I don't want to make him the number one paid receiver. What does a receiver in their first 3 years have to do if you don't want to fucking pay Michael Thomas? It's like,
no, I mean, there's nothing, and like that's the thing, but I think more importantly when it comes to Michael Thomas is, his character. I mean, Michael Thomas is the kind of guy he wants to, obviously we know he wants to be the highest paid receiver. He comes out in the ski mask, but I mean, he wants to be the best at everything. He wants to be the highest paid. He wants to have all the records. He wants to win all the championships. I mean, he's a motivated guy, and he's been that way since the very beginning. And he's a guy that, even if you pay him, even if you make him the highest paid receiver in history, in NFL history, or current, he's still going to be that guy. He's going to be the opposite of what I always worried about with Nick Fairley. He's going to be the guy. He's still going to push. He's still going to be that great receiver. And actually, I wanted to this reminds me that I wanted to comment because I was listening to you guys on the weekly podcast, and you were talking about Thomas and getting paid and all that kind of stuff. It does behoove the Saints to get it. It's kind of not really that surprising to see the Saints want to get this done sooner rather than later, because you guys were talking about how all these other guys are going to be due up for contracts. Julio Jones is going to be due up for a contract. Who else was there that's going to be paid?
AJ Green, although he's older.
Yeah. I mean,
Tyreek Hill, he's a mess, so he's not in it.
And all these right, and all these guys are going to get paid.
It's only going to get worse, right?
Exactly. So you might as well be the first. You might as well get that. You might as well be one of those first contracts and get that done, and then let those other guys then be the next highest. I mean, it's just only elevate.
Yeah.
It's like buying a house. When you're buying a house, do you want to buy a house in the neighborhood before the neighborhood changes and gets awesome, or do you want to buy into the neighborhood after it's already changed? No, you want to buy in early and you want to get your value.
That's real estate advice brought to you by Dave Cariello. But listen, I mean, just going back to what Dave said and going back to your original question, Ralph, like there is no argument to make. The dude in his career last year, he caught 85% of his targets. For his career, he averages almost 12 yards a catch. So this isn't a running back that's catching like 3-yard screen passes. He averaged 12 yards a catch over his career, and he's caught 77% of his targets. Now, some of that is the quarterback that he's playing with. And I'm sure if he was playing with different quarterbacks, maybe his target percentage goes down, but his yardage goes up. But I mean, the bottom line is when you look at his stats and you ask the question, Ralph, what else does this guy need to do to convince you? Like, there is no argument. There is no argument for like, I'd rather him be this or I'd rather his stats. Like the only, like if you don't want Michael Thomas to get paid, then you're just a guy that in general, you're that guy. You're like, oh no, we should never allocate funds to a good player. We should let him walk and continue to just slave drive all the players. And like basically you are an NFLPA nightmare because you always advocate against players getting paid because there is literally nothing else this guy could do on the field that wouldn't justify him getting what he deserves.
Well, Ralph, it's funny you mentioned earlier too, like about how years ago, Drew Brees, he was a great quarterback. He could make any receiver look like Jerry Rice or whatever. Well, I feel like the tables have kind of turned, and Drew is, he's not what he once was. He's still a great quarterback. He's very efficient, but I think and as he gets older and continues to play, he's going to need more help. And I feel like now the tables have turned, and Mike Thomas can help make Drew or continue to keep Drew being putting up big numbers and being a great quarterback.
No, totally. And here's the thing with the one argument that I saw.
I feel like if Dave is saying that we should do this, like I just want to say, Dave is team like. Players
what do you want? The guy
get lazy. I'm just saying, Dave is usually like, don't pay this guy because he's going to get fat and happy, and he's going to give effort.
I think Mike Thomas has never shown us anything that would allude to that being the case and that happening. And
I agree.
He's if the Saints had gone to the Super Bowl last year like they should have, Mike Thomas gets a lot more press. He gets a lot more coverage. I think his value goes up, as ridiculous as maybe that sounds. I think the country as a whole and NFL fans as a whole know him a little bit better, know him a little bit more, not just the fantasy people. Which of course I think Mike Thomas wants. I think he wants every single endorsement he could possibly get. But he's still on the Saints, and the Saints kind of have, I don't know, they just, he's not like as outspoken as with the whole ski mask stuff. That's about as about as bad as it gets. He's not like Terrell Owens or
even the cell phone celebration. Even the cell phone celebration was an homage to a former Saints great. But here's the thing with Michael Thomas, and you made the point, Dave, about if the Saints had gone on to the Super Bowl and done bigger, and he'd be more well known. We all know in the NFC Championship the refs fucked the Saints, but the play before that, Michael Thomas would have walked in for a touchdown, and Drew Brees threw him a ground ball. And if he catches that pass, I think even the perception of him would be higher and different,
Drew Brees throws him a ground ball.
Well, it's true.
He did. He
I know.
Had a chance to catch it.
I know, it's a funny way of phrasing it, but it's totally accurate.
Yeah.
So I think,
You guys, the only thing I'll say about Michael Thomas that kind of I find a little just not disingenuous, but just a little like, you're kind of doing this wrong. It's that, how he's always tweeting that like, shh, he was always tweeting that.
Yeah.
But like,
he's been doing
he kind of runs his mouth, and he's always on Twitter, You're not really being quiet. Like, I want you
to
be
a megaphone.
You're definitely awesome, and you're telling
say it
everyone
for the people in the back.
You're telling everyone you can't guard Mike, and that's absolutely true, but you're not. Why are you hushing yourself? You're clearly talking.
Yeah, the one thing is, I just don't see, Dave, and this goes back to your points about how safe it is. I just don't see Michael Thomas declining in a way that isn't injury related, and you
No,
can't
absolutely,
not sign a
absolutely.
guy
The
for
only
that.
thing,
Like,
the only thing that's going to stop him is an injury, is
you
a
know, he
serious
may
injury.
not be as good if Teddy Bridgewater isn't as good or whatever. You know, the numbers may come down, and he may not be the 1,300 yard guy. He may be a 900 or 1,000 yard guy because the offense just isn't as good, right? But I just don't see it happening unless it's an injury. The question, though, I guess for me is, can he maintain? How good can he be if the Saints continue to have kind of trash around him, Andrew? Like, can he still churn out this amazing stuff year after year after year, and especially this year is what we're focused on? Can he still do it if the Saints don't get just a little bit better at receiver? If they're sort of what they were last year, can he still turn out another big year, or will teams figure out a way to slow him down a little bit?
I mean, I think you're discounting the fact that Alvin Kamara is on this team, which is a significant. I mean, it has a huge impact even on receivers. So, other receivers aside, offensive line is you have Sean Payton and you have Alvin Kamara in the building, and until that changes, so basically the picture you're painting would have to be a new coach and Alvin Kamara is elsewhere, and then or gets injured or whatever, then maybe I become a little bit more concerned. But I think the question there is, can he continue to produce at this level after Drew Brees? Like that's really the question for me. And then I don't know if Payton is still here, and I think he would be, but can he produce like this if Teddy Bridgewater is the quarterback? So, and I don't know. I mean, I come back to when I first called you, and I was like, dude, I just saw this guy at the Greenbrier, and I'm telling you, he's a star. After one practice, I saw it immediately. Every once in a while, you see a guy.
That's how Andrew
and
was.
They stand out
after one
practice. Yeah, and I mean, it's just like that guy. Like you could just tell, that he stands out, and you're like, that guy is awesome. And so I think the comment that I made at that time was, Ralph, most of these Saints receivers that have been awesome in the system, I never really believed that if they went elsewhere, it kind of doesn't matter what the system was, who the quarterback was. Like Devery Henderson, Robert Meacham, Lance Moore, like there's a lot of systems, quarterbacks, and teams where they're probably not making a name for themselves in the league. But I think Michael Thomas is that special. And it goes back to his work ethic and all of that. But I just think any quarterback, any offense, and I think any coach, and I think he's still close to 1,000-yard receiver. I just think he's that good.
Dave, who's next to get paid? Because the Saints have paid Cam Jordan, they paid Michael Thomas. Who's the next guy to get paid? It would seem to be Kamara because Ramczyk is a couple years out. Lattimore is a couple years out. But is Kamara the next guy to get paid, or will it be someone that we're not thinking of?
Well, because I was going to say Kamara and Lattimore were drafted in the same year, but Lattimore was a first-round pick, so he gets the option, right? So that's why.
How much does it hurt you that you can't say Mark Ingram right now, Dave?
I think you guys kind of brought this up in the last, in your other weekly podcast.
That people should subscribe to, $7 a month. Do it. You get a free koozie.
I was, I know this is.
I just got my koozie, by the way.
I haven't gotten anything. I know this is crazy, but I could. There's a part of me that feels like the Saints could let Kamara walk. And I only say that because, I mean, the Saints have always just filled that role, that Kamara role, the Reggie Bush, Darren Sproles,
CJ Spiller
was supposed to be CJ Spiller, and a part of me just kind of feels like Peyton, could just be like, it's fine, we can let him go. We've gotten what we've maximized what we're going to get out of him, and,
that's the thing.
I'll be able to find somebody else to do that
2
spot.
years.
And Lattimore, I feel like it's a lot harder to find somebody like Lattimore that can shut down a whole side of a field on defense.
And the thing is,
and they certainly haven't, and the Saints certainly have not been as good as I mean, like seriously, like how many times have the Saints tried to find a great cornerback and failed? Dozens and dozens of times. How many times have they tried to find a scat back, versatile, out of the backfield running back? They do it all the time, and 4 out of 5 times they get the guy and he's great. It's amazing. So I feel like you hold on to what's more precious, which to me is Lattimore, and you let go. I'm not saying that's what they're gonna do. I'm just saying, like, I could see that happening.
Well, Andrew, you touched on it in the podcast during the week, the daily, but it's one of those things where Michael Thomas, his numbers are just overwhelming. So you can't. So you like he's set the record for most catches for a receiver.
He's not just any. He's not
Kamara. Kamara's not breaking
wide
any records. He's awesome, but it's sort of like it's not just statistics. So it becomes a much more complicated argument when the Saints and him are arguing money.
Yeah, I mean, and Kamara's stats aren't bad. I think he ran for 700 yards his rookie year, and he was over 800 last year, and that could potentially go up with which is how we're being gone. And if you add the receiving yards, I mean, he had about 80 catches both years, and so he probably had about 1,500 yards total both years. So he was still productive, but yeah, I just think when you look at Ezekiel Elliott and Le'Veon Bell and the contracts that they're getting, and then what everyone else is getting that's a running back, which is, I mean, we saw it with Mark Ingram this offseason, that it's not good. And so I just think it's difficult.
Did we lose Andrew, Dave?
I don't know. I guess so. He sounded like crap to me. I don't know if he sounded like crap.
Did I just start sounding bad?
You sound perfect now.
Yeah, now
you
you're
just
good.
started speaking and spelling like one answer ago, but now you sound fine. Whenever
I was just saying that his contract situation is complicated.
Yeah, whenever one of you speak and spells, I go into a panic because I worry that it's all my fault, which 9 times out of 10 it is. But here's the thing with Kamara that Dave mentioned the Saints replaced him. They just have so many people coming up that they're just gonna have to make these difficult decisions. I think another difficult one is Rankins, because he's probably not going to be that good in this year, but they have his option for next year. So he's a guy, 2 years. Let's say he comes back in 2020 and is really good. Do you pay him because he had the Achilles injury and he had the broken leg when he was a rookie? Like, do you give that guy huge money even if he's killing it and he's back to like a 9-sack guy?
I think he's getting the Pierre Thomas treatment.
Well, the Pierre Thomas treatment almost involved getting traded, Andrew.
Yeah, but I just think they're going to leverage the fact that he just got hurt and he's probably not going to have a great season, and like, yeah, we're still going to pay you. We're still going to give you a long-term deal. You should be happy, but they're not going to offer him what he wants.
Yeah. In other Saints news, Dave, Drew Brees continued to prove that he is the GOAT. He won his diamond lawsuit against the guy who sold him the supposedly bad batch of blue diamonds or whatever the hell it was, and is going to get awarded $6.1 million. I don't know if he'll get it. He may get that money down the line. It may take 5 years, but he fucking won the lawsuit. Saints lawyers on Twitter were kind of surprised, but does this prove that Drew Brees is indeed the GOAT?
I was actually talking about this with a lawyer buddy of mine last week or 2 weeks ago, maybe, and he actually thought that Drew maybe had a legitimate chance. He didn't read the entire briefing or whatever the hell you call it, but he had noted that the jeweler had, apparently, if the diamond is a certain value and if it's really worth what it's supposed to be worth and it's a certain color, it's green or whatever, and this guy was using like different colored lenses to make the diamond actually look a different color, and I mean that's obviously clearly misleading and fraud. So, so yeah, I mean, hey, good for Drew. He won.
How many Jimmy Johns can you build with $6 million?
Probably a lot because they're pretty small, and I think they're fairly. From what I see, they got to be pretty. They probably don't take too much capital to start up, and the ingredients are obviously, they're baking their own bread and it's just meat and lettuce. They don't cook it.
I am not a Jimmy John's fan unless they sponsor this podcast, and then I will love them. But until that day, I'm not a fan.
I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. I don't think. I mean, it's good. They're very. I mean, they. One of their big things is obviously how quick they are, and I have to give that to them. Like, they are incredibly, incredibly fast. And I will say this. So my store is obviously 4 blocks from Drew's Jimmy John's franchise on Maple Street.
How exciting.
And I will.
You got great eating options in the neighborhood.
I mean, we will. We can literally call them or even do it online or whatever and place an order. And I shit you not, they are. I have seen them there in literally like 6 minutes. I mean, they are crazy fast. It is pretty impressive.
All right, so thanks to Fredo, who posted the UDFAs for 2020.
Yeah, I like that you're having your own conversation in the chat room while we're doing the show.
To replace Kamara?
Yeah. No. I just want to go through these one by one. I'll ask you them, and I just want to hear your gut reaction. Is this player, not knowing what the Saints have to do financially with all these other guys we've talked about? Ralph, I'll start with you. Eli Apple, stays or leaves?
Stays.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree about that. He's going to get paid, and I think he'll I'm not sure, but okay. Dave, PJ Williams.
Gone.
Von Bell, Ralph.
Gonzo.
Dave, AJ Klein.
Stays.
Ralph, David Onyemata.
This is the one that no matter who you asked, I was going to say we're all going to talk about. This one, and you said in the chat with people, thanks for everybody who's joining us on the live stream, by the way. It's the most complicated because here's the thing about Onyemata. But take out his little silly pot bust. It's no one gives a shit about it. You could literally be a fucking Dave Chappelle movie what's the Dave Chappelle movie where they're just all stoned out of their mind? The whole
Half-Baked.
Half-Baked. You could be people don't care anymore. The NFL is probably going to take it off the ban list, whatever. That's not going to matter. The thing about Onyemata that makes it complicated is he has everything you want physically for a defensive tackle that can kick ass. And he is a 5.5 sack season this year. I'm telling you, he'll get $70 million from a team. If he gets 5.5 sacks and the Saints go to the playoffs, a team will pay him 5 years, $70 million. I know you people are going to laugh at me, but a team will do it because a team will say
he just started playing. It might be the Saints.
What's that?
And it might be the Saints.
It might be the
Saints if they don't feel good about Rankins.
Because here's the thing. They'll either the Saints or another team will look at him and say, look, he had 4 sacks, he had 5.5 sacks. He didn't play football until he was in college in Canada. So he's very raw and young, and his best years are ahead of him, and his physical body type says he can be amazing. We're going to pay him. And I would, if he has 5.5 sacks, Dave, or more than that, I will be petrified to lose him, and I will be even more petrified to pay him. He scares me to death both ways.
You guys think, I'm going to say that it's unlikely that Onyemata and Rankins are with the Saints past this year.
Dave, your thoughts on that?
You guys think that's fair?
Do I think that they pass on Onyemata?
Yeah.
No. Do you think that between the two of Onyemata and Rankins that they have to pick one?
I think.
Yeah, they have to definitely.
If they had to pick one, I guess they would take Onyemata, if I'm being honest.
All right, and then you've got Dave. Last one for you is Andres Pete. Is he back?
Oh yeah, you got to keep him for sure.
I don't know. Man,
he's so versatile. I mean, like last year, whatever. I mean, like, he came in and played whatever he needed to come in and play.
They could have two. They could Pete. They could have Pete and Warford and Armstead all gone after this year. Is not an unrealistic thing because they could say, "Hey, Armstead, you're injured too much, and we just can't pay you. You're gone." And Warford, he'll be in the last year of his deal going into next year. So if he gets injured and he's not healthy, he could be gone. And Pete may walk as a free agent. I mean, this offensive line, Andrew, could be completely different. Oh, by the way, with a new quarterback, I'm getting the shakes already about 2020. I don't want it ever to get here.
Let's say that was the situation. Do you move Ramczyk to left tackle and make him your franchise left tackle?
Absolutely.
Ramczyk is going to get paid of all the people. I'm even more so over Lattimore. I'm more convinced Ramczyk if you told me of all the people that is left to get paid, just because I think he's the one that's most likely to be healthy, to be consistent, and to play at a high level to where there's no question. I could see Lattimore, he gets nicked, maybe he doesn't work as hard, whatever, so they have questions about paying him, even though I think they would.
Right now, I gotta see Ramczyk play 16 games and not be wearing body armor first.
not be RoboCop at the end.
Yeah.
Dave, did
not have a piece of equipment that attaches his wrist to his shoulder?
Dave, we're talking Saints and we're getting there to the camp, but it was all Pelicans this week and it was pandemonium. Did you partake in the Fulton Street madness with all the people and the ESPN guy crowd surfing? Did you go down there and partake in it at all?
I was not down there. Sorry, I don't love the Pelicans that much. But we did watch the draft in my house as a family. We were eating dinner. My house. But yeah, we had it on. We had the draft on during TV, and I was explaining everything to the kids, and Dylan thought it was cool, and they showed the shot of Fulton Street, and I was like, Dylan, that's like going on like right down the block downtown. He was like, what? He was like, why are they out there? I'm like, they like the Pelicans. We're drafting Zion. And I had to explain, that whole situation. So, but it was good. It was exciting. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts, even national podcasts like Bill Simmons and Pardon My Take, and obviously they're all talking about the draft and talking about Zion and talking about the Pelicans and talking about David Griffin. And
the Bird Rights is the best one because they invited me on to talk about my Channel 4 column. Thank you, Preston. By
the way, Ralph, you're talking about your Channel 4 column. That's where you said, wait, what was the whole premise of it?
The Pelicans will be more popular than the Saints in 5 years.
Yeah. One of my employees retweeted that, and she was like, "Oh, I hope so." And I was like, "Oh, did you know that my buddy Ralph wrote that?"
People hated that column, man.
She loved it. She might have only read the headline, but
I woke up and.
What about today? Is today the worst day of your life? Yeah.
My Twitter mentions were a fucking dumpster fire. It was nothing.
I could see Saints fans getting mad. Yeah,
they were mad. And the thing is, it was cool though because I ended up gaining almost 100 new followers, so it worked out.
So really, the joke's on them.
Yeah, the joke's on them because Channel 4, they're social people. They tweeted it out and did my handle, which sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And they did, and I just woke up and I had 40-something notifications. I was like, what the hell? People are like, you have lost your mind. Stick to, my favorite thing is stick to the Saints, buddy. You don't know what you're talking about. Stick to football. You don't know what you're talking about. But thanks to that.
But I mean, but it was. But I do think that. Wait, what was the original question we were talking about?
The Pelicans downtown. It was just all Pelicans last week. It was fun.
Yeah, no. But that's what I was gonna say. Is so I'm listening to all these national podcasts. And I mean, everybody seems to think that I mean, the opinion polls on Griffin are through the roof. I mean, everybody is amazed that he got what he got for Davis. I mean, Bill Simmons was he went back in history to every major star that's ever been traded, and I mean, Bill Simmons seemed to think that this was the most that any team has ever gotten as far as assets are concerned for one player. And then Griffin on draft day, he turns the 4th into an 8th and a 17th or whatever, and just continues. And obviously, we own the Lakers' future for the next 5 years. I mean, it's Bill Simmons. I mean, this is a national guy.
It's the Mike Ditka trade, except it's even worse.
Yeah.
Well, here's my question.
No, we're comparing it to the Herschel Walker trade. What did they give up for Herschel Walker? That's what they were comparing.
Herschel Walker was a ton of stuff, and it was weird in that Minnesota gave Dallas a bunch of players, and if the players didn't make the roster, if let's say the players, if Jimmy Johnson cut them, they would turn into 2nd and 3rd round draft picks. And Jimmy Johnson knew when he agreed to the trade, he's like, I'm cutting all these motherfuckers and just gonna have 2nd and 3rd round picks out the wazoo. And Minnesota didn't quite get that. But here's the thing, and I wish Kevin was on the podcast tonight, Andrew, because then he can answer this question himself. But if the Saints ever did a trade like this, where they had future assets out for 6 fucking years, I think it might kill Held. He might orgasm so hard it would kill him. He'd be so excited.
I would be all for it too. It's exciting stuff. But that's my point is that this was anybody that knows anything about basketball, and I am not one of those people, but anybody that knows anything about basketball said that this was the Pelicans came out huge winners on this, and it's nice to hear them saying nice positive things about the Pelicans and being excited about the next year for them.
Fredo says combine the Ricky Williams with the Herschel Walker and add that we get the bet on the Lakers having a disaster for the next 4 to 5 years to keep cashing in chips. That's the thing that makes the Pelicans fun. Is I don't know about you guys, but before the New Orleans got an NBA team, my NBA watching experience was more so I watched it and I followed it, but I had teams that I hated more so than I liked. I hated the fucking Bulls, and I hated the Lakers of Shaq and Kobe. And I would say I was a Knicks fan, but that was just a vessel to hate the Bulls. So the fact that I get to root for the Pelicans and fucking see the Lakers, if they have bad seasons and it's a disaster, Andrew, it benefits the Pelicans, where I would be rooting against the Lakers anyway. Now that it benefits the Pelicans, it makes it even better. It can't be a more enjoyable NBA experience than we're going to have the next 4 to 5 years.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I just pulled up this. I was busy reading this Herschel Walker trade, but I look at this and I just see what they got out of it, right? And so when they ended up getting all these picks after they cut all these players, and I'm reading these names, and they got Emmitt Smith with one of the picks. They got Russell Maryland with one of the picks. They got Kevin Smith, the cornerback. They got Darren Woodson. I mean, these are all pillars of Dallas, who was 1-15 at the time when they traded Herschel Walker. But, I mean, getting a return of Emmitt Smith, Darren Woodson, and Russell Maryland, I mean, those were cornerstones to that franchise. And by the way, this doesn't even begin to talk about how much they fleeced the Saints for with Steve Walsh.
A 1, a 2, and a 3 for Steve
Walsh. Yeah. So, my hope is that we'll be talking about this on this podcast 5 years from now, and we'll be like, yeah, man, the Pelicans, they drafted X, Y, and Z out of those out of this trade, and look what they came out with to support Zion and their, and that I mean, look, man, the Cowboys won Super Bowls. They were the team of a decade, so that's how you build that. And
Dave,
I just hope the Pelicans. They've already got Zion.
Dave, be that you are the T-shirt Emporium King. Do you have 20 different Zion Williamson T-shirts ready to go?
I don't dabble in the Pelican stuff. I don't even really dabble in the Saints stuff, to be honest with you. But I do get, because I have an account with 47 brand and Nike and all that kind of stuff. So I do get like the emails. So for the past month, I've been getting the emails from 47 brand showing the design. They call it if win or if drafted. So you can place your order for these shirts, and then if the Pelicans actually draft Zion, then they'll ship you the shirts immediately, and you'll have them in your store like within 2 days, so you can start selling. So I do get like a preview. I do get to see all the shirts, and sometimes it happens like in this case, and then they hit the market.
That Zion Pelican T-shirt I saw Darren Ravel tweet out is fucking fire.
Which one? Who made that one?
I texted my mom tonight to go.
My
mom, because she's coming to visit. Because my wife has a wedding in Las Vegas this week. So my mom is flying in to help me make sure my son survives.
You need an extra hand, literally.
That is absolutely 100% correct. I hear Andrew, when his wife goes to Pakistan to do her globetrotting vice presidential stuff that she does, Andrew's like, yeah, I got 2 kids. I just do it by myself. It's just easier that way. I'm like, motherfucker, my wife goes away for 48 hours. I'm bringing in the troops. I don't even attempt that shit by myself. And Andrew's taking out 2 kids. Juge, I don't know how you do it.
Or if someone else comes to help me, and then it's like I'm babysitting them too.
Too many cooks in the kitchen.
That's right.
Took a long week to quit sniffing glue.
So we were going to do one topic, but we're going to cut it out and save it for next week maybe. But so I wanted to do our off-tech topic craziness, which we've done plenty of this tonight. But Andrew just wrapped up a vacation you were in Florida, correct, Andrew?
Destin, Florida, yep.
Destin, Florida. And you had a nightmare traveling story, vacation story that you wanted to tell the people. So me and you were going to tell yours, and then me and Dave were going to tell our worst
I've got one from not too long ago myself.
Well, I mean, Ralph asked, like, hey, think of your worst vacation stories ever, and we'll say them on the podcast. He tells me this yesterday when I'm amidst all this, and I'm just like, well, I don't have to think back very far because I'm right.
I'm living it right now. I'm living the nightmare now.
Yeah, but so. I guess Atlanta had some bad weather yesterday, so I'm flying Destin to Atlanta, and I live in Charlottesville, Virginia. So then that was the next flight.
There's your problem right there. That's where it all went wrong, right?
Yeah. So
you brought
flight,
Atlanta into this whole situation.
First of all, it's kind of like a standard. You're on the tarmac for like 45 minutes, and they're like, "Sorry, folks, we gotta go back to the gate and refuel." It's like, oh my god. If you'd like to get off the plane, feel free to do so. So it's one of those, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm just going to stay on the plane. So, it's like delayed like 2 hours. Finally, we do the whole taxi thing again. We take off. So it's Destin, Atlanta. We arrive in Atlanta. We're circling Atlanta, but we can't land because of bad weather. So we circle Atlanta for 45 minutes. And then the captain comes on and says, I'm just going to tell it to you straight, folks.
God, you never want to
hear out of coffee.
Yeah. He's like, I thought he was going to be like, we're out of fuel.
We're going down.
Yeah, we're all going down. But he's like, the bad weather is continuing in Atlanta, and it's going to be another 45 minutes, so we're going back to Destin. So we're like,
what?
I'm like, what? No, we're there. No, don't turn around. We're already here. So it goes all the way back to Destin, at which point we all deplane. And we were all standing around at the gate, like just trying to figure out what's going on. Mind you, at this point, like this was a 2:30 flight, At this point, it's like 9 p.m. And I mean, we have 2 kids with us.
Quit amphetamines.
Yeah. So then
airline is this?
It's Delta. This gets worse, guys. This gets worse. So then at 9 o'clock, they're like, okay, we're doing it. We're going back in. And so the plane has to refuel again. It's like 45 minutes on tarmac, the whole thing. And my wife is on the tarmac, and she books a ticket, a hotel, knowing that we're going to be stuck in Atlanta overnight last night. So we get the hotel. We finally land in Atlanta. It's like 11:30. We get the kids in bed by midnight at the hotel. And we're rebooked on a flight to Charlottesville at 8:30 this morning. Okay. So we wake up and we're like, all right, kids, you can get them settled, get them ready. And my son's like, I really don't feel well. And he is as white as a sheet. And we're just like, well, we got to go. So we're just going to do this. So we're going through security. We're literally going through security, putting our stuff on the belt, right? He pukes everywhere. Pukes everywhere, in the security line. And I mean, it's just oh my God. So the security girl is handing me paper towels. I'm using disinfectant. I'm on the floor on my hands and knees, cleaning with all these people walking around me, taking off their shoes. And thankfully this was in the TSA pre-check line. Everybody should do that. But yes, there was projectile vomiting, Fredo. Yes, there was. But in the end, we got home, and but it was my son, when we land, he's 9 years old. He just goes, well, that was the worst trip of my life. He said that kind of matter-of-factly. It was awesome. But
so what was wrong with him?
I don't know. He had a fever and throwing up. So yeah.
Just a stomach bug or whatever.
Stomach bug, yeah.
Projectile vomiting. So Dave, what was your worst travel experience?
Mine actually wasn't that long ago either. It was 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I mean, I'll preface this by saying, I'm from New York and I went to college in New Orleans. So I've done my fair share of flying and traveling very regularly over the years. And I've had pretty good luck. I mean, I really have not really had too many issues, no horror stories or anything like that. But so, yeah, I guess 2 weeks ago, I had to go to Providence, Rhode Island for work, for a trip. So I was up there for a few days. And then on my way home, I was flying American, and I was flying to
you missed a podcast because of this.
Yeah. And
That's right.
And I was flying to Reagan in DC and then to New Orleans. And I had I don't know, a 10, 11 o'clock flight out of Providence. And I only had 30 or 40 minutes in between in the layover. So, I mean, I was really cutting it close. But we wound up getting in a little bit early, actually, at Reagan. So I had time. So I get off my plane. I go over to the gate. And, Reagan is a hub for American Airlines. There's a lot of flights, and my gate was at the end of the terminal where they have 4 or 5 gates all in one section, and it was like a shit show. They had 2 or 3 flights that were all boarding. It was like a cattle call. It was just a ton of people just all at the end of this terminal. And so I get off my plane and I go over to the terminal. It says it's boarding in 1 minute. I say, okay. I go to the bathroom real quick, and I go back to the area, and I'm just milling about, and I'm just waiting to hear, okay, flight to New Orleans is boarding, group 2, and now, flight to New Orleans boarding group 3, boarding group 4, boarding group 5, because they go all the way to group 9 with American Airlines. Well, again, you're at the end of this terminal and there's different flights going on. I only hear the boarding for the Charlotte flight that's going on at the gate next to us or whatever. And I'm not really looking at the gate. I'm just listening for the boarding announcements. Well, about 10 minutes before the flight, I walk over to the gate, even though I've been in this area, and I walk over, doors closed. Oh, nope, that flight left. And I say, what do you mean that flight left? I've been standing right here. I was right here. I was 20 feet away. I didn't hear any announcements. I've been waiting to get on my plane. I was ready to go. What do you mean? I didn't hear anything. I don't think that they made any
Is today the worst day of your life?
Yeah.
It was pretty terrible. I don't think that they were making any announcements over the thing. I think unless you were standing right there directly in front of the gate, which you want to blame me for that, that's fine. I'll take some responsibility for this.
You
So
fall on that sword.
I understand. I get it. I mean, it was frustrating because I could have been there. I should have been
Wait,
there.
were you with kids, wife,
No,
just
see,
yourself?
that's why your situation I think may have been worse because you were with the kids and then your kid got sick. So I mean that adds a whole nother level to the whole thing. In addition
I
to
can't
to the
I can't just go to
frustration
the
of travel.
bar and drink it off.
Right. So anyway, I tried to get on the next flight at 6:00 that day, but it was overbooked. So I was on standby, so I didn't get on. Fortunately, I have a friend that lives in Fairfax, so I took a cab to their house. I stayed with them overnight. Went back to the airport the next morning. There was like an 8 a.m. flight. I was actually sitting next to Senator Mary Landrieu. She got on that flight. I did not get on that flight. And then there was an 11 o'clock flight, didn't get on that one, standby. There was a 1:30 flight, didn't get on that flight, standby. I finally got on like the 6:30 flight the next day. So I was in DC for, 28 hours or whatever. I spent most of that time in the airport. When I sat down at the bar the second day, the bartender was like, "Oh, it's you again." I'm like, "Yeah, let's not talk about that. I'm not supposed to be here for 2 days straight. Obviously something is wrong if you're looking at the same person wearing the same clothes for the second straight day." But anyway, I finally got home but it was extra frustrating knowing like this whole situation could have been avoided. It was more my fault than anything else.
My story isn't the one bad travel story that I can think of isn't that bad, and it doesn't involve airplanes. In 2008, I was driving home for a Saints game, and it must have been in September. I don't remember which it was but it was the night of a presidential debate between Obama and McCain. And I don't know who's familiar with Lake Charles, but they have the bridge in Lake Charles where you go over, and a 18-wheeler had jackknife at the bottom of it. So traffic was stopped. I was on that bridge stopped for 2 fucking hours. But that's not the crazy thing. The crazy thing was I was stopped for 2 hours. So I just turned off my car and I was like, this is crazy after about 30 minutes. And it never went. So I fell asleep in my car, like on the bridge. And the thing was, I don't know why they had a policeman or whatever walking on the bridge or whatever, but like when the traffic finally got going, he noticed that my car was like stopped or whatever, and he taps on my window and he woke me up and he's like, "Why are you asleep? What are you doing? Have you been drinking?" I'm like, "No, I've been stopped for fucking 2 hours." Like,
yeah, what do you want me to do?
What do you want me to do? I could either listen to a presidential debate or I could fucking go to sleep. And I was kind of like indignant with him, and I could see he was getting mad, but then he just let me go. But I was like, well, like, it wasn't like I was getting shit-faced on the bridge over Lake Charles. I was just stopped for 2 hours.
Yeah,
that trip.
Where did you just pull booze out of your trunk and just drink?
I wish I should have had a cooler next to me, which I used to do in my younger days when I would do long-distance Jersey. But that's not right. Drinking and driving is wrong. I learned that when I was 30. No. So that trip from Houston to New Orleans took me 10 hours and 10 minutes. That was a fucking nightmare.
Should normally take 5 hours.
Yeah, 5. It should take no more than 6, a little over 6, even if you have a kid and you have to stop multiple times. So that's my travel nightmare. So let's get into a couple of questions. This is an interesting question. Andrew, if Cam Meredith doesn't play in the first preseason game, will he get cut before the second one?
I think he's got a little rope because he took a pay cut, number one. So I think that earns him a little leeway. And I think the Saints still want to believe in him. But the fact that he wouldn't have been on the team if he hadn't accepted the pay cut, man, like he he hasn't really been practicing at these OTAs. So yeah, I mean, I just think if he's not playing in preseason, his odds go down every day. Yeah, I mean, I think he'll see the second preseason game because they don't really need to cut anyone till the very end now, right? It goes there. There's no first cuts. I think it all happens at once. But yeah, I mean, I think they would want to get a different receiver in the building at some point, or even just bring back Trayvon Durrell. If he can't practice and he's not doing it, so I think he sees 2. But but that's it, man. He's got to play one of those first 2 games.
Dave, Saints Pelicans both make the playoffs.
That's juicy. Will they?
Yes.
I don't think the Pels make the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean the Saints do. I don't have a question about that. Yeah, I don't know. I think we got to give them a year to settle in.
This is an interesting one. Andrew, does Drew Brees winning his lawsuit for $6 million, does it make him more likely to retire?
No, that's six.
I think it has no impact whatsoever.
That $6 million is, I mean, it's not chump change, but it's also not.
There's also a strong chance he will never see that money. Just because he won a ruling in court. I mean, he's still got to get paid. And I'm sure he owes his lawyer probably half that at this point. So,
this is an interesting question. Ralph, since your wife hates the World Cup, which is true, she hates the Women's World Cup and forbids me from watching it. What do your wives forbid you or hate you to watch? Besides, like, pornography.
Oh, I was going to say porn.
My wife would rather, seriously, she has said when she came in today and I was watching England and Cameroon was on.
My wife.
She would rather walk in on me watching porn than any women's sport. She is the most chauvinistic, anti-women's sports person I know.
Hashtag me too.
But what's something that your wife just hates that you watch on TV?
Football.
Yeah. My wife likes football.
My wife.
My wife's kind of cool with everything that I watch.
Yeah.
I mean, I just watch sports, but she likes it too.
Yeah. So
I'm lucky like that. She even plays in my fantasy leagues.
Wow. That's true love. Before we get out of here, since we started the show, I get asked all sorts of questions about who to bet on, and I don't know who to bet on, but I know who to bet with. I don't always know. But wait, sorry, let me start again. Since we started the show, I get asked all sorts of questions about
that's
who to
when
bet
going
on.
Live is really, he's got a gun to
and
his
who
head.
to bet with. I don't always know who's going to win. And I don't always know how to read these spots, but I know if you want to gamble online, the place to go is MyBookie. Between their live in-game betting and endless props and fantasy sports wager, there's something for everyone with the best player perks in the sportsbook online business. They've been good to us, and they'll be good to you. They've been hooking our listeners up. Visit mybookie.ag and use the promo code HAPPY25 when creating your account, and you receive a 50% bonus. Laying down 100, you get an extra 50 to play. That's mybookie.ag, promo code HAPPY25. You play, you win, you get paid. Terms and conditions apply.
That was so bad that you should feel bad for them and go out of your way to hook them up because Ralph didn't do them justice.
Hey, man, they know I have serious mental and physical limitations when doing this podcast. When they agreed to be a sponsor, they knew what they were getting. That's all I'll say. So that'll wrap up the show this week. Kevin couldn't join us. We're about less than a month. We're less than a month out from training camp, right? They start the 20.
It's late July, yeah.
Yeah, it's like the 24th. So
I don't think there is an official date yet, though, is there?
No, there's not. So last year was the 28th. So we're like basically a month out. And pretty soon we will get to do our favorite thing, and that is panic over minor or major injuries that reporters tweet out when so-and-so got up slowly, walked gingerly with the trainer. That fun's going to start. But thanks for being with us a day early, everybody. Thanks for everybody in the live room. There was more people than usual. So let me know if the Patreon update that I send to you guys, if tonight I sent it like right before we started, if that's when it's best, or should I send it an hour before we start? I've been experimenting with different times. Let me know what's best. But that'll do it for tonight. So for Dave, for Andrew, I'm Ralph. Until next week, the bar is closed.